Make it real. Everybody now.
All right, we had a pretty popular post with the best of 2009.
Well, that's because everybody's dying to post their own their best of.
Not dying to, posting it.
Yeah.
People sit around making their list and like, I want to just tell the world what my list is.
There's some who should have died after posting them, but hey, you know what? I was glad to see everybody had their opinions, and I wanted to get the best of out the way first because
wait. How many of y'all laugh when somebody put Transformers 2 on their best of list?
Every time. I'm making a people who posted Transformers 2 in their best of list.
Well, if you laughed at that, how did you guys feel about when people put Wolverine in their best of list?
Did some people? Have you actually seen someone do that?
There were several.
There were more Transformers 2, but every so often, I tell you this: nobody who put Wolverine in their best of list didn't have Transformers 2 in their list also.
And these people love us.
You know, when they actually go through puberty, they're going to look back and laugh.
I mean, come on. These are like 14-year-olds who can't go see other movies. You know,
That's true. And we were 14 once.
Yeah, no,
exactly,
I like some dumb shit.
Yeah, I like some bullshit when I was 14.
Sorry, no offense, guys, but I promise you, with every fiber of my being, that you will look back in 10 years and you'll either laugh or never admit to anyone that you liked these films.
Yeah, you try to be that cool guy.
You'll be that guy that goes, yeah, man, I never liked Southland Tales. That shit was bullshit.
Gosh, I never liked it either.
You
check the review.
Let's get down to what really is bullshit to us. This is our worst of 2009 list.
Just 2009?
Yeah,
just 2009.
Okay.
Just 2009.
Why do we call it a worst of list? We're all set up. Why don't we call it some old bullshit of 2009?
Some old bullshit.
Some old bullshit
right.
of 2009.
And keep in mind, guys, even if y'all are going to go back and listen to the original reviews, there might be some stuff that we didn't originally give us some old bullshit to, and that over time we thought about more and go, you know what? That's some old bullshit.
Now, let me set up the criteria here and I can't speak for everybody, but for me, there's some movies that I gave a rental to because I said, there's something good in here, but in the big scheme of things, in retrospect, considering some of the movies that have come out afterwards, they have gone to the level, personally for me, of bullshit and deserve to be on my list. For me. But that's just me.
I had already given you a free pass. Why do you want to dig yourself back in that hole?
Well,
just in case.
It is funny how it works because I saw Avatar a second time. And while I thought, you know what, I'm kind of over it, but I just want to see it again, I liked it better the second time.
Me too.
But then Terminator 4, not so much.
That's one of those movies, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some movies I thought about where I was like, well, I laughed at this part, or there was a cool special effect here. But, like I said, with all the movies that come out now and everything that we have to look back on, this movie, that movie for me would be the bottom of the barrel. So.
And, of course, we've got the expert here, the man who actually saw the films that no one else in their right mind would ever contemplate
Who
actually
on purpose
sitting through.
spent a weekend, or was it a week?
It was 2 days.
2 days going through and purposely rooting out the worst movies.
I give you shit sometimes, Carlyle, but on this one, I tip my hat to you. You are a brave and now permanently damaged person.
Some people go and put on a uniform and fight our enemies to serve our country, and I sit and watch the very worst of the very worst.
You pulled a reverse Neo.
That's right. I caught all the bullets is what I did because I came out unscathed.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like
No, my respect to you. There was a year I would do that, and this year I thought, like, I got shit to do. So, it's like, hey,
since
since
everybody else is giving caveats, I'll throw out my caveat that you might hear me argue that certain films are not the worst of the year. That is not to say that they are not some old bullshit, but that I have seen worse.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
Let's get into it. And Korey, why don't you throw us out one of the worst movies of the year?
No, I was going to leave that up to you.
He should go last.
He should go
You know what?
Worst.
And I had wanted to go last because I guess I probably should go first because I haven't seen nearly all the bad movies this year as all of you have. So if my list sounds a little bit shallow or if there's something in there you disagree with, that's probably why.
That's because you're the boss and you're like, I don't have to see that shit.
I don't have to say that's what y'all are here for. Exactly. That's what I have minions for. No, I would never call you that. You're more like henchmen. But anyway, this.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Flunkies.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, don't you call us toadies and flunkies when we're not around?
Well, when you're not around. But right now, you're really cool ass henchmen.
And hey, you know what? His check's clear.
Yeah. Now. Okay, let me go. I'm just going to real quick, like we did with the other list, just go down this, and then we'll discuss after we list everything that we have on our list here. How many times can I say list? But okay, I'm
take a drink.
Again, no particular order. All right, Planet 51, Fire It Up, Year One, Friday the 13th, Observe and Report, Gentlemen Broncos, Did You Hear About the Morgans, Miss March, Dragon Ball Evolution, and this movie absolutely does take the top spot. Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li.
Damn, I'm amazed by how much our list doesn't have that much overlap.
I know, me too. I was like, all that stuff is crap, but nothing. Only Planet 51 and Gentleman Broncos would meet my worst of the year list. On
No,
that.
there's a couple that you duplicated on mine. A couple that I actually films that I do like, not films that I think were best of the year. But I enjoyed Friday the 13th quite a bit. I really liked Fired Up. I had a lot of fun both times I've seen.
Didn't you have that on your best of list?
No, he
No.
said I remember he said it
wouldn't go
was
on my best
That
of.
movie was a surprise that year for him, a
Oh,
likable
okay.
surprise. But
Okay.
yeah, Planet 51, routine animation, doing nothing new.
The most boring film we saw this year.
Yeah, it may
yeah.
very well be the dullest thing
Yeah.
I saw.
And yet still didn't make my worst.
And like I said, I hadn't seen what you guys had seen. I'm sure we'd be bumped out had I seen what you have seen.
Chun-Li, your number 1 is my number 10. That should tell you something. First of all. Second of all, I put Chun-Li at number 10 because I always save my 10 spot for a movie that's so bad it's good. And Legend of Chun-Li was fucking hilarious.
That is
Chris
yeah.
Klein is
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
If it
in that
wasn't
movie.
for Chris Klein, I would agree with Korey absolutely. But I got to tell you, I mean, I don't know if he was doing it on purpose or if he's just really that bad.
It's
of an
hard to
actor.
tell, but in a movie that bad. Now, here's what got me about the film. Not only did it just have total disregard for the franchise that it took it from, the Street Fighter series, the video games.
Yes, which it had disregard for a video.
Now,
game.
yeah, I know, and,
Hey,
and that's how
fuck
bad
you,
this movie
comic
is.
book
That it
boy.
actually, I
Yeah.
know you Spider-Man,
Exactly.
311 motherfucker, you,
That
but
always kills me. You're like, you get mad if someone said that about Spider-Man or one of those films, but it's a video game. You're like, well, I don't play a lot of video games, so fuck all that shit.
Hey,
I don't
Spider-Man
care.
is the Spider-Man. As an entity, is known for its stories. Video games,
No,
A
it's
lot
known
of them
for being
are.
a colorful guy who climbs walls. Guys like you know his in-depth stories.
The thing
Okay.
is, like, you're not a guy who plays intensely like
Okay.
the whole Tomb Raider
Let me-
series,
let
all
me-
Resident
let me
Evil
just
series.
throw this out. Let me play-
you know what?
let me play
I
studio
take it back.
exec
I'm
for a
sorry.
second.
I'm sorry. 'cause
Nope, too late now.
No,
now, see, you thought you were gonna have some allies in this. You have a room full of video game people.
There's been all these great video game movies, and I don't know how I could
No,
besmirch
no, no.
them.
You know how many terrible superhero movies there were
Before
before
they
there
actually get to
finally
the good
was a
one?
good one?
Okay, how many good ones are there, and how many good video game movies?
How much longer were there comic
Yeah.
books before there were video games?
Yes. How many years did we have? Like, we started out with what? Like Captain America, The Punisher. How many? Like 70s
It has
bad
like
Spider-Man.
50, 60
like
years
like the
before
Fantastic
that.
Four from Rick.
Whoa, guys,
wait,
take your
you-
dicks out of Leon, please. He is
Seriously.
getting
God
fucked
damn you!
raw.
No, but my point is here is like
Show me one good video
no,
game
no,
movie. and I'll
that's
shut
not
the
even the
fuck up.
point. That's
And
not.
I will back you up right there because they don't fucking exist.
Yeah, they're not yet.
No,
Not
that
yet.
wasn't our point. Our point was that there's years sometimes before they actually hit. Video games are
Sure.
still fairly new to like making movies out of. We will get that great video game movie one
I
day,
think
but
it'll
it
come.
took
I still
years.
disagree.
It almost took like two decades to get like a good comic book movie, like a really good comic book movie out.
Yeah.
But with this movie, like even though they haven't made, and the reason why. This is a prime example of why there aren't any good video games movies, because they have people who know how to do it. They take it, and what they did was they could have had like a really cool imaginative film, like really something exaggerated, like a better version of something like Speed Racer, where they created this really unique world. But what they did was they opted out to make not only just a run-of-the-mill action flick, but even for HBO, this is the kind of action flick that would be just bad. I mean, it's boring. There's nothing
yeah.
new there. The performances are terrible. Chris Klein, maybe he's doing it on purpose or not, but when,
he's funny as fuck in this
Ash
movie.
out.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
there were points I laughed for like 30 seconds after the scene was over because
love
you
my
could
job.
not believe what he was doing on screen. You're just like, what the fuck?
He went back and watched a bunch of Don Johnson and then did a parody of Don Johnson. It was
A
so
combination
fucking
of
beautiful.
Don Johnson and what's his name from the red-haired
David
guy,
Caruso?
David
David
Caruso.
Caruso,
And
yeah.
it was like a cross.
I had no
between
idea
those
you were
two.
talking about it, and yet I knew exactly what you were talking
Exactly,
about.
it's exactly his role from
But,
the spin-off show.
But see, he's in the
Miami.
middle of a bunch of bad
CSI.
things, so you can't really distinguish what he's doing. It just blends in with all the other terrible things
And
that's
he's
going on.
actually worthless. Like that's the beauty of his character, is that when he's on, it's the Chris Klein show, and it's a completely separate movie from the shit going on with Chun-Li. And you're like, what the fuck is this about? I don't know, but I can't stop watching him. And then it gets back to the boring movie, which is only watchable because Kristen Cruick wears increasingly shorter and shorter items.
Yeah, no, it was terrible.
So how would y'all compare that to G.I. Joe, which was like a
G.I.
crap
Joe-
movie that was so much fun?
But G.I. Joe had fun. It was paced. It did stuff. It had money behind it. The problem with this movie is they didn't have money to do anything
No,
interesting.
that movie's cheap. And hey, as different as G.I. Joe was from maybe the TV show, the comics. First of all, G.I. Joe's a property that is ever changing, so you can't really hold
Sure.
that against it. And G.I. Joe put some characters in there that we recognize and we're kind of similar to what we saw in the cartoons.
Look,
and
I'm
the
not
books.
saying G.I. Joe is bad. I mean, like I said, G.I. Joe is one of those movies. It might ask, I'm like, look, it's not a good movie, and yet, I mean, it's not just me saying this. I think we all said it, and I hear this across the board. People say, look, it's dumb, it's not a good movie, but it's so much fun.
Yeah,
I'm glad I
but
watched
it's a guilty pleasure, and it's a guilty pleasure because what works actually works.
It's a B film. This is a D film.
And
Okay,
G.I.
that's
Joe
what I was asking.
Hey, look, some movies can get by on their special effects. G.I. Joe happened to do that. There ain't no special effects in Street Fighter.
To be fair,
They're-
most
hey,
They're bad ones.
Hey, you are a filthy liar. There are scenes in which Kristen Cruick, she meditates and generates an intense amount of chi over her genitals, where there's this mystical genital energy floating around, and that was pretty incredible.
I'm sorry, the After Effects glowing ball that they did that anybody could do on their laptop computer, that's the biggest special effect in the
Well,
movie.
even in G.I. Joe, a lot of the effects were crappy, but it had that one great scene that you're like, what the fuck is this even doing in this otherwise kind of mediocre effects
And in
film
this movie-
with the big exo
the Halo suits.
Dude, that was bad.
Oh, that was
badass.
cool, yeah. And in this movie, they take characters that are like major characters in the game, like M. Bison. Because the movie's so cheap, they can't even make him a cool character. He's a businessman. You know, he's just a guy in a suit. You know?
M. Bison is like a Russian mystical badass wearing a communist garb, and in this movie, he's like some Irish-born kid raised in fucking Taiwan
With bleach blonde hair.
With bleach
you know?
blonde
I mean,
hair.
to be fair to Leon here, like he's looking at this going, look, it's a video game movie. How is it going to be good? Well, for one thing, it's based on a fighting video game. There is no plot.
That's more my point. I understand that there are video games that have, complex stories.
Yeah, when they're
but not
doing
Street Fighter.
There's a lot of stuff out there that could have been good movies that were fucked up just because they handed it to absolute schlock masters like Uwe Boll. I would have been curious if they got someone actually talented to make Alone in the Dark or House of the Dead.
Sure.
But no, they gave it to the worst director possibly alive.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is so many of these video game movies are going to these people because the studio knows we don't need a good movie because we'll make our money back on a zero budget with a zero director and a zero writer just because it's a video game.
And a movie that suffered from this in a different area, the anime area. Look, to show you that I can understand where you're coming from, but I got to kind of differ from you too. Something like Dragonball Evolution. I don't even like that show Dragon Ball Z,
Right.
but I look at this, there's a ton of fans who like it, and I'm looking at the movie and I'm like, you know what? You took this and totally made something cheap and not unlike it was in the series, and you betrayed the fans that were out there who could have made this a success.
And
that's a terrible move right there.
I agree with you. Again, it did not make my worst of list because there were actually, as much as I hate 90% of this movie, there's 10% of it in there that's actually halfway interesting. Every time Chow Yun-fat is on screen, he's actually kind of fun.
Oh, Chow Yun-fat's in this?
Oh, God, dude.
Oh, that's so sad.
But the thing is what he does, he's the one guy who gets it. He knows he's in an anime, and so he plays a fucking anime character. It's clear that he sat down and watched a show and said, this is the guy I'm playing, this is what I have to be, and he's over the top, and he's being fun Chow Yun-fat, and he's doing all this really crazy, exaggerated stuff that's like his anime character, whereas everybody else thinks they're in a real action movie and have some of the worst dialogue you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, it's terrible. Miss March is a movie. I interviewed the guys who did this, the whitest kids, great guys.
I like this. I like this show.
Those guys are actually really cool, but when you make a movie where you have nothing but really flat bathroom jokes and sex jokes, and combined with the personalities of people who are like, wow, you know what? We're popular. We're guaranteed to make people laugh in a movie. It's terrible, and it's just this movie here. It's a wonder that they got what's his name from Playboy.
Hugh Hefner.
to be in this. I mean, they had a coup right there and totally blew it on a terrible film.
So that would make them the worstest directors, right?
Well, I think I forgot which guy directed it.
They both did.
They both
co-wrote it. They both co-directed it. And this is my number 4 on my bottom 10 list.
Yeah, this movie just reeks of smugness.
It's not just that. It's everything you've ever seen done wrong in a teen sex comedy, but fucking everything that's ever been done wrong in a road movie. It's all of the bad tropes together. Every 22, the movie is 89 minutes long, okay? There are 4 scenes in which one of the main characters shits himself with explosive diarrhea. One of which they show you, like he falls out of bed and and it spills across the floor,
Yeah.
and they use that as a gag through the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and it's not that funny. I've seen
Not that funny? It's not funny at all.
And I've actually seen explosive diarrhea be funny in a movie where it was the only really funny thing in the film.
There is not a single joke in this movie that fucking works. The only one that comes halfway close to being clever is used in the trailer and isn't. It seems kind of clever in the trailer, which is the part where they're being chased by the psychotic firemen.
Yeah.
And they pull a Yui and turn around, and the firemen can't chase them because they can't turn their trucks around.
It's funny. Your live Twitter feed as you were watching this movie, Carlyle, was one of the best films of the year. It was emotionally resounding. I cried for like 3 hours after I finished reading it. It was very
fuck
distressing.
me, that was rough. I mean, it was, and I watched it. I spoiled my new HD monitor
No,
watching that.
I think these guys are funny, but they suffer from people who are so used to doing sketch comedy.
They don't know how to tell a story.
They don't know how to, exactly. They don't know how to expand it into a
Kids in the
good
Hall
script.
suffered from the same thing
Yeah,
with
but
their
Brain Candy-
But
Yeah.
Brain Candy, at least
Mediocre
Brain Candy
It's
Brain Candy
not
has
as bad as this
moments
movie,
of
though.
brilliance in it. This shows complete and utter ineptness.
Brain
in the
Candy
story.
had some clever moments in it. This is a sex comedy. Sex comedy, first of all, don't have too much intelligent plot in it. But if it's funny, can get by. This movie doesn't have the funny. Did you hear about the Morgans? I'll go past this real quick. It's a bad TV movie brought to the screen.
Couldn't be worst of the year because it was never offensive to me. I was never mad watching it. I just felt like taking a nap, really.
I was offended by how lazy that movie was. Hugh Grant doing the same thing he does. Sarah Jessica Parker being Sarah Jessica Parker. We can take them in a good movie, but in a movie like this, where it's nothing for them to do, they become very annoying. Observe and Report, just downright offensive because it's creepy. I was really truly offended by that film.
I've been bothered by seeing this on a couple of lists because this is not. I don't like. God, what's the name of the director? Jamie,
he's the one that did the Foot Fist Way.
Foot Fist
I don't
Way.
like this guy either. Yeah.
I don't like his comedy, but at least this film had some great moments in it. There was some intelligent stuff going on, and ultimately I ended up liking the ending of the movie, and the ending of the movie brought me around on.
See, that's what I was offended by. They want us to like this guy who is he's disturbed, and
They
want
don't- they
it's
don't
one
want
of
us
those
to
movies
like
where they
him.
say, I think so. They like it's one of those movies where at the end they're like, oh look, he did something good and turned himself around, and all of a sudden we're supposed to be like, yeah, we're rooting for this guy. It's like fuck this.
I'm actually kind of with you on this one. I hated this film. I mean, I felt personally offended walking out. At the same time, going back and thinking about it later, I don't have anything good to say except that they were trying to do something outside of the norm. It wasn't like lazy filmmaking. They were really honestly trying to do something different here.
It's comedy
just
on the cutting edge.
It just didn't work.
Well, we just talked about Youth and Revolt, and I think Youth and Revolt is a movie that's along the lines of something like this and works better. We're supposed to root for a guy who's like he's disturbed, but he has a heart, and then this guy has a heart too. But I just didn't feel him in this film.
I was gonna say, did I bring that up and everybody blew me off? Maybe not.
No, I mentioned it in our review.
But Observe and Report is on my list of movies that wow. Not only was this bad. I mean, sorry, son, you and I talked about this. Usually, the movies that make our worst of lists are the comedies that just fail so miserably.
Almost
because
every time.
They're just annoying and they keep coming at you and you're like, stop it already. I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And that was one where not only was it not funny, Seth Rogen was wrong for this role. It goes on. It gets more and more obnoxious, and eventually you find out this character. Okay, you're like, okay, he's a dumbass. No, wait, he has a mental problem. No, wait, he's date raping this girl. I mean, and there's no this, and they try to make a joke out of it. And you know what? It was like I was already not liking it, but that was a point that tipped me over to like, wow, I now absolutely hate this fucking movie.
Yeah, nothing in there for me at all. Did you?
Except it's not date rape, and that was something that always upset me.
I've heard your argument for that and other people's, and I'm sorry, it was date rape. The girl's that fucked up that she didn't know what was going on. Whether she said, yeah, keep fucking me or not, it was date
See,
rape.
I can kind of see your point because what happens is she, maybe she did want it, but in his mind, he's like, well, I'm just going to go ahead with this because she doesn't know what's happening.
That's the thing. At the point when he mounts her, in his mind, she is passed out. And he's like, well, I'm already here, and she won't know.
And that's Anna Faris who's in the movie who plays the girl.
Even though there is not a tiniest part of that girl that wants to have sex with that guy, and you know that. That's spelled out for you.
I don't know. She was
kind
of slutty. She was
a little bit slutty, but even so.
I think she would have
You
fucked
know
him
what?
anyway.
You guys are going into a dangerous area.
I think you are too. Yeah.
No, because I agree that I think in his
And
mind
this
it was
is-
a date rape situation.
This is exactly where I actually have to defend this movie is the fact that all of these characters are presented as terrible human beings, and they're all presented as being fucked up in one way or another. And she's just as terrible a character as he is, which is why I wasn't bothered by that scene. Why I don't see it as date rape, because this is how she is just as terrible as he is. This is not a we hate women thing. This is every character in this movie is supposed to be fucking awful, including the love interest.
But they are so fucking awful.
I guess that's because they're so ugly. It's not funny.
Yeah.
It's just unpleasant.
That's the thing. It's an ugly film.
She's awful, but she's not. Man, that girl is so awful. She deserves to be raped.
No, but that's why they have that moment at the end where, you know, she says, you know, keep fucking me, asshole, because that's just what this character does. And I'm not gonna go and defend date rape in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to defend how this movie was trying to make a joke.
And I understand.
There's a great moment in this movie that I agree feels like 90% of this film, which is there's that scene in which the guy comes out of the closet and says, "Man, I was sticking around because I thought this would be funny, but this just is really kind of sad." And that's one of the things with this film. I'm not in love with this film, but I was
just going to say, what you're talking about happens early in the movie. And that was at a point when I was still giving it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
There's a point when I'm watching the movie and Seth Rogen's in it, and I was like, this part is written more for a Danny McBride.
Yeah.
He should be doing this. And then he shows up. I'm like, oh, cool, Danny McBride's here. But then he's off again. And it's like, oh, great, it's back to Seth Rogen.
And why is Patton Oswalt even in this movie for 30 seconds?
And Danny McBride played like a wigger in this movie.
Yeah.
Who was just, I don't know, man.
Everybody, it's just unpleasant. These
Why
are
has he
people.
gotta be a wigger?
These are people. These are people I wouldn't want to spend time with. I don't think what they're doing is funny. It's like it's made. It felt like it was made to be entertaining for people who are actually like these people. As I'm watching it, I understand your argument that it's experimental, and I agree with you. I think it was trying to experiment. At the same time, I think it was an experiment that fell on its ass.
To me, it's a movie that's all about the shock value. How can we keep shocking people over and over? Okay. It's not about jokes. I mean, the thing is, no matter how offensive a movie, TV show, whatever it is, or a statement somebody makes, if you can actually be funny with it, people will laugh and let you slide.
Well, one thing we agree on, we all don't like the movie.
Yeah, we definitely don't like the movie.
One thing that was really revealing to me was Gentlemen Broncos. As much as I think that director has, he's
Jared Hess.
Jared Hess. I think he has good heart when he's making these movies. I think he's actually trying to make something endearing. That guy is a one-trick pony at this point. I mean, this movie just showed how much he can only do one thing, and that is write characters who are not only quirky, but they seem like they have Asperger's syndrome. And this movie it got more childish than Napoleon Dynamite.
Well, from the viewpoint of someone who actually liked Napoleon Dynamite, because I did. I did love
too.
it.
I like Napoleon Dynamite. No, I do.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you did.
In fact, Napoleon Dynamite to me. I actually liked Napoleon Dynamite more. The movie annoyed me when I saw it, and I saw it at home, and I was like, I really like this movie.
I didn't love it, but I thought it had a mild charm, and I was shocked to find out that people did, in fact, just worship it. I still don't get that. But this takes what actually did work in Napoleon Dynamite, that you could kind of believe these are real, albeit very pathetic people, and just throws that out the window, because this one, Gentlemen Broncos, it takes that same quality of like really annoying people and makes them where they're not even mildly real. You couldn't possibly believe that these people actually exist and that these relationships would be formed the way they are. And so who cares? Why are we even watching this at this point?
They are characters just used to usher in absurdity. I mean, that's all. And it's Jared Hess, his screenplays make no sense anymore.
The worst kind of absurdity, that whole like, isn't it funny that we're being ironic? Aren't we? We're worshiping stuff that's bad and saying, "Oh, look at this! It's ironic that we like this stuff and we worship it." It's the worst kind of hipsterism, and it just sits there reveling and gloating.
Well, I'm just going to mention some things like we mentioned the characters in Napoleon Dynamite. He did the thing with the drawings, and they do it here too. There's weird animals that pop up, and it's just combined with the bathroom humor that he puts in this, it just makes for an off-putting film. I mean, it's nothing good about it.
Well, no, I hate this film. It did not even come close to my worst of, because there were some things in this film, moments that, I mean, every time Sam Rockwell is on screen, Sam Rockwell is infinitely watchable.
Yeah, his name is Bronco in the movie, right?
Yeah. Well, one of his names is Bronco, the other is Broncanus.
Oh, right.
And
that's right. The gay humor in this is terrible.
Well, and not only that, I mean, the main problem with the film is that he wants to both revere something and laugh at it at the same time, but it doesn't feel like he actually loves it. He feels like it's as if a guy were writing a romance novel and saying, oh, here's the shit you ladies like, and writing it with that kind of point of view. And that's how he's treating science fiction in this, where science fiction fans are supposed to be dressing up like characters and in love with what is clearly dog shit written by a 13-year-old boy and co-opted by a hack.
Honestly, I guess part of what I didn't like it is exactly what you're saying, in the sense that, like, here's this thing that on some level I guess maybe they thought would appeal to people who like older sci-fi, and yet it's nothing but a direct fuck you to people who like sci-fi. But who else are you going to sell this movie to? I don't know who the script could possibly
it
appeal to.
wouldn't be the hipsters who all flocked to see Napoleon Dynamite in the first movie.
No, because
have to keep in
that had
mind-
some honesty in it. This doesn't at all.
But they see this guy's name and they go like, oh, it's that guy. I got to go see his new movie.
What you have to keep in mind is the main difference between that film and this film is that Napoleon Dynamite was rated G, and all of his jokes fell into the rated G category, and everything that was bizarre, he wasn't allowed to go the places that this movie tries to go to. This movie goes, there's terrible jokes in here, like him selling popcorn balls in bags and his mom forcing him to sell them 2 for 1, so he's walking around with essentially popcorn nut sacks. And then there's that scene.
Yeah. Oh, did you not see this?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh,
That's
God.
why I've been
There's a
quiet.
scene where Mike White shows up and he's like this Christian mullet wearing asshole who tries to look cool by putting a snake around his shoulder, and then the snake has explosive diarrhea down the front of his white sweater.
There's another scene where the love interest in this movie, this girl, she throws up, and the hero of the movie, this kid who writes the science fiction novels, kisses her while she still has like bits of
puke
vomit
on her
on
mouth.
her
Yeah,
mouth.
visible chunks.
Yeah, this is the type
I
of
already
stuff.
filled my list